evening. Welcome to This Week Tonight. And this evening, I've got Danica Connors. Danica, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Danica is here to talk about Lyme disease, which is something that just about everybody on Nantucket knows a little bit about, but I'm guessing Danica knows a lot more about. And I think information is very important about this. And as I understand it, you've started a support group.
Yes, absolutely. The Athenaeum has graciously provided a space for people who are dealing with Lyme disease and those who are supporting them. So this support group allows people to come together to talk about their experiences of what they're going through. A lot of people can feel very alone and very frustrated when dealing with Lyme, and it's not just Lyme, it's the other co-infections that can go with it.
Now, what are some of the other co-infections?
For us here, Babesia is one of them, Ehrlichia is one of them, Miyamotoi is another. There are others as well, but these are the ones that we mainly focus on here on Nantucket. We see them quite a bit.
And quite a bit in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. And the group is also for those, it's tricky because Lyme can go undiagnosed for a very long time. Even with the testing that we have, it's not as efficient. It's not as stable as we would like. So many people who actually have it don't test positive. So this group is also for people who haven't tested positive, but they have a lot of the symptoms that are common. So it's for whether you are diagnosed or undiagnosed, but you feel that you are dealing with it on a regular basis.
Now, I know if it goes undiagnosed for quite a long time, there is a lot of damage that can be done to the body.
Absolutely, absolutely. The spirochetes themselves are not, they don't fancy the bloodstream. They don't like oxygen, they don't like heat. So they tend to go for the colder, liquid, viscous places in our body, in our synovial fluid. So they go into our joints, they go into our organs, they go into our eyes, they go into our brains. And the longer you give them, the more settled they get.
Now, what does one do when he's gone through all the traditional treatments of Lyme disease and seems to be on a course of antibiotics and then no antibiotics, and then they feel bad again, and then on antibiotics again, and they start feeling better, then no antibiotics? There has to be some alternatives.
Well, as I work as an herbalist, we end up having to rebuild the system from the ground up. We have to start with the places that the spirochetes have dismantled. They end up dismantling our digestive system. They end up dismantling our nervous system. They end up dismantling our immune system. So it's about rebuilding those pieces. And a lot of the times, antibiotics can be helpful in certain circumstances, and antibiotics can really be unhelpful in other circumstances. So the first thing we end up having to do is rebuild the system before you can actually go at those spirochetes as an herbalist. Because once you start removing those spirochetes, they release a tremendous amount of toxin into the body that if your system cannot remove that, if your liver isn't working well, if your kidneys aren't working well, if your digestive system isn't working well, when those toxins release into the body, you can have severe, severe toxic overload. They term it the Herxheimer reaction. It's very common, and it can be very painful and very dangerous for people. So I believe in building up the systems first to make them strong enough to be able to handle what happens when you start removing spirochetes.
That makes sense. Now, if folks out there would like more information on where the group is meeting, how to get in touch with the group, how do they do that?
If you check out the Nantucket Athenaeum's website, their calendar, it's posted there. There's also a bunch of flyers around town, and you can always email me at shanticrow@aol.com, which is SHANTICROW@aol.com. Feel free to email me anytime. I love talking about Lyme. The more information we get, the more people can feel connected and feel like they have a chance to handle something like this.
And information is very important, and I would imagine there are folks that are off the island that don't live here that might want to somehow touch into this.
Absolutely.
Or tap into that, and that'd be a good way to get a hold of you.
Yep, absolutely. I offer, in my practice, I offer face-to-face consultations, but also Skype consultations for those who wish to take a more alternative approach.
Terrific. Now, Danica, you're an herbalist, a shamanic practitioner. Tell us a little bit about that.
The shamanic practitioner piece?
Either.
Okay, well, for me as an herbalist, what I love most is being able to deal with the plant world. And that plant world adapts and shifts the way we adapt and shift. Plants have had to deal with all kinds of challenges, and their systems adjust. And when we work with them internally, externally, those inherent challenges are very similar to the challenges that we go through. So we actually work in tandem with the plant world here. And believe it or not, what another topic that I love to talk about is invasive plants. What we see on this island, one of our most invasive plant species is Japanese knotweed. And guess what Japanese knotweed has been used for successfully over and over again?
Lyme disease?
Lyme disease. Lyme disease.
Isn't that ironic?
And it's not just ironic. There are many books that are coming out that are actually delving into the subject of before large swaths of pandemic or any type of disease come into a region, we should start looking at the plants that become invasive right before it, because we're seeing a large percentage of that, these invasives, having potential capacity to balance off what that disease is bringing
One
in.
of the many miracles of Mother Nature.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, so.
Well, Danica Connors, thank you very much for joining us on
Alrighty.
This Week Tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.